The morning sun was barely up when 14-year-old Lily and her mother stepped off the bus in the unfamiliar city. Lily clutched her white cane a little tighter than usual. She could hear the busy sounds all around her. Cars honking, people talking, footsteps rushing past them on the sidewalk. Everything felt so different from their quiet hometown 3 hours away. "We're almost there, sweetie," her mother said softly, gently guiding her daughter forward. "Just 2 more blocks." Lily's heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone around her could probably hear it. She had been dreaming about this day for months. The summer piano workshop at the Grand Arts Center was supposed to be amazing. Only 30 young musicians got selected from hundreds of applications. When that acceptance letter arrived, Lily had cried tears of joy. Finally, someone was giving her a chance. But now, standing outside the massive concert hall with its towering glass doors, doubt crept into her mind. What if they made a mistake? What if they didn't know she was blind when they accepted her application? The thought made her stomach twist into knots. "Do you want to wait a bit?" her mother asked, sensing her hesitation. "No," Lily said quickly. "Let's go in." The moment they pushed through those heavy doors, Lily was hit by a wall of sound. Piano music everywhere. At least 10 or 12 different pianos being played at once, all practicing different pieces. Scales running up and down. Complicated classical pieces she recognized. Some she didn't. It was beautiful chaos. Her mother led her across what felt like a huge open space. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Lily could smell the polish on the wood, the faint scent of old books and sheet music. She tried to build a mental picture of the place based on the sounds bouncing around her. "Excuse me," her mother called out to someone. "We're looking for Mr. Anderson. My daughter is here for the workshop." "Anderson? Oh, he's over by the main stage area. See that tall guy in the black shirt?" Lily heard her mother thank the person, and they continued walking. The piano sounds got louder as they moved deeper into the hall. Lily could feel the vibrations of the music through the floor beneath her feet. It made her fingers itch to play. "Mr. Anderson," her mother said. "Hello, I'm Catherine Reeves, and this is my daughter Lily. She's registered for the workshop." There was a pause. A long one. Lily could feel someone's eyes on her, studying her. "Studying her cane, I'm sorry," a man's voice said. It was smooth, confident, and carried an edge of annoyance. There must be some confusion. "This workshop is for advanced piano students." "Yes, that's right," Lily's mother replied, her voice staying calm but firm. "Lily is an advanced student. She's been playing for 10 years, another pause. Then Lily heard something that made her face burn with shame. A laugh. Not a friendly laugh. A mocking one. "You're joking, right?" Mr. Anderson said. "She's blind." The words hung in the air like a slap. Around them, Lily could hear the piano music starting to fade. Students were stopping their practice, listening to the conversation. She wanted to disappear, to run back out those glass doors and never come back. "I'm aware my daughter is blind," her mother said, and now there was steel in her voice. "But I don't see what that has to do with her ability to play piano." "Everything," Mr. Anderson said flatly. "Look, Mrs. Reeves, I appreciate you bringing your daughter here. But piano at this level requires sight, reading complex musical scores, watching hand positions, understanding dynamics and expressions marked on the page. This isn't beginner's class. These kids are competing for spots at major music schools." "Lily can do all of those things," her mother insisted, without seeing. He let out another short laugh. "I've been teaching piano for 15 years. I trained at Juilliard. I've performed in concert halls across Europe. Trust me when I say that what you're suggesting is impossible. Maybe there are programs for disabled musicians somewhere, but this isn't that kind of workshop." Lily felt tears starting to sting her eyes. She heard whispers from the watching students. Giggles. Someone saying something she couldn't quite make out, but the tone was clear enough. They thought this was funny. They thought she was a joke. Her mother started to argue more forcefully, but Lily reached out and touched her arm. "Mom," she whispered. "Maybe we should just go." "No," her mother said firmly. Then louder to Mr. Anderson, "You haven't even heard her play." "How can you judge her ability without listening?" "Because I don't need to waste everyone's time," Mr. Anderson said. Lily could hear him starting to walk away. "There's a waiting list of qualified students who would love this spot. I suggest you contact them about a refund." Something inside Lily shifted. It started in her chest, a spark of anger that spread through her whole body. She had faced this her whole life. Doctors who said she'd never play again after losing her sight. Teachers who refused to take her as a student. Kids at school who thought she couldn't do anything normal kids could do. She had proved them all wrong. Every single one of them. "Wait," Lily said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Please." She heard Mr. Anderson stop walking. "Just give me 5 minutes," Lily continued. "One song. If you think I'm wasting your time after that, we'll leave." "I promise." "Lily," her mother whispered. "You don't have to prove anything to him." "Yes, I do," Lily whispered back. There was a long silence. Lily could feel everyone watching her, waiting. The whole enormous hall seemed to be holding its breath. Finally, Mr. Anderson sighed. It was the kind of sigh that said he thought this was pointless, but maybe, just maybe, it would be entertaining. "Fine," he said. 5 minutes? Piano 7 is free. Over there by the window." He paused. "Play something simple. Maybe that Mozart piece beginners learn. Sonata in C major?" Lily nodded, though inside she was already deciding to play something very different. Her mother started to guide her toward the piano, but Lily gently pulled away. "I can find it," she said quietly. She needed to do this alone. Using her cane, she made her way across the wooden floor. She could feel every eye on her as she moved carefully between the other pianos. Someone had stopped playing right near her and she heard them whisper, "This is going to be painful to watch." But Lily blocked it all out. She had learned long ago how to build walls around herself, how to create a quiet space in her mind where only the music mattered. When her cane touched the bench of piano 7, she carefully folded it and sat down. The bench felt smooth under her hands. She ran her fingers lightly across the keys without pressing them, getting a feel for this specific piano. Every instrument was different. Different weight to the keys, different spacing, different voice. Behind her, she heard Mr. Anderson say to someone, "This should be over quick." Lily took a deep breath. Her fingers found their starting position, and in that moment, right before she began to play, she made a decision. She wasn't going to play simple Mozart. She was going to play something that would make everyone in this hall stop and listen. She was going to show them exactly what a blind girl could do. Her fingers came down on the keys, and the first notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major filled the air. The first notes floated out into the hall like whispers. Soft, gentle, almost careful, Lily's fingers moved across the keys with a lightness that made it seem like she was barely touching them. The Chopin Nocturne was a piece that could reveal everything about a pianist. It wasn't about speed or showing off. It was about feeling, about understanding what the composer was trying to say with every single note. Around the hall, the whispers and giggles started to fade. One by one, the other students stopped their conversations, stopped their practice. The only sound was Lily's piano, singing out into the massive space. Mr. Anderson had been walking away, ready to go check on another student. But something made him stop. He turned around slowly, his eyes narrowing. This wasn't what he expected. Not at all. The piece grew more complex. Lily's right hand danced through the melody while her left hand provided the flowing accompaniment underneath. Her fingers knew exactly where to go, hitting every note with perfect precision. But it was more than just hitting the right keys. There was something in the way she played. Something that made you feel like you were hearing the piece for the very first time. A girl practicing at piano 3 completely stopped and turned to watch. Then the boy at piano 5. Then another student and another. They were all drawn to the sound like moths to a flame. Some of them started moving closer, wanting to see this blind girl who was making their expensive pianos sound better than they ever had. Lily was completely lost in the music now. She couldn't see the audience forming around her, couldn't see Mr. Anderson standing frozen in place with his mouth slightly open. All she knew was the piano beneath her fingers and the music flowing through her. This was where she felt most alive, most free. When she played, she wasn't the blind girl. She wasn't different or limited. She was just herself, completely and perfectly. The middle section of the piece arrived where the melody becomes more ornamented, more delicate. This was the part where many pianists struggled, where fingers could trip over themselves. But Lily's hands moved like water, smooth and effortless. Each trill was clear. Each note sang out with its own voice before blending into the next. Her mother stood near the entrance, tears already streaming down her face. She had heard Lily play 1,000 times, at home, at small recitals, at their church. But something about this moment was different. Maybe it was seeing all these talented students stop their own practice to listen to her daughter. Maybe it was watching the shock and disbelief on Mr. Anderson's face, or maybe it was just the pride of watching her little girl refuse to back down, refuse to be dismissed. The piece moved into its more passionate section. Lily's whole body swayed slightly with the music, feeling every emotion the composer had poured into it. Her fingers pressed deeper into the keys, drawing out a richer, fuller sound. The dynamics shifted beautifully from soft to strong and back again, painting pictures that everyone listening could somehow see. A few of the students exchanged glances. They had all played Chopin before. They thought they knew these pieces. But hearing Lily play made them realize they had been missing something. They had been reading notes off a page, following instructions. Lily was living inside the music. Mr. Anderson's assistant, a young woman named Claire, walked over to stand beside him. "Is that really her first time at this piano?" she whispered. He nodded slowly, unable to speak. "How is she doing that? How does she know where all the notes are?" Mr. Anderson just shook his head. In his 15 years of teaching, in all his time performing across Europe, he had never seen anything quite like this. The girl wasn't just playing from memory. She was interpreting, feeling, expressing. Her disability hadn't limited her. Somehow, impossibly, it seemed to have given her something extra, a deeper connection to the music that most pianists spent their whole lives trying to find. The final section approached. This was where the piece returns to its opening melody, but softer now, more reflective, like a memory fading into the distance. Lily's touch became lighter again, almost ghost-like. Each note was placed so carefully, with such intention, that you could hear the spaces between them. The silence was just as important as the sound. One of the older students, a 17-year-old boy who had already been accepted to a prestigious music school, felt a lump forming in his throat. He had been playing piano since he was 4 years old. He had won competitions, performed in professional settings. But standing there listening to this blind girl, he suddenly felt like he was the beginner and she was the master. The final notes came. Soft, peaceful, like a door closing gently. Lily's hands lifted from the keys and came to rest in her lap. For a moment she sat very still, her head slightly bowed, still somewhere else in her mind. The silence that followed was complete. Absolute. Not a single person in that hall moved or breathed. Then someone started clapping. Just one person at first, then another, then suddenly the whole place erupted. Students were applauding, some of them whistling, others just staring in amazement. The sound echoed off the high ceilings and bounced around the marble floors. Lily's face flushed red. She could hear the applause but couldn't see the expressions on their faces. Couldn't see that half the students were wiping tears from their eyes. Couldn't see Mr. Anderson standing there looking like someone had just knocked all the air out of his lungs. Her mother rushed forward, placing a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "That was beautiful, baby," she said, her voice thick with emotion. The applause continued for what felt like forever. Finally, it started to die down, and Lily heard footsteps approaching, slow, hesitant footsteps. She knew without being told that it was Mr. Anderson. He stopped right in front of the piano. When he spoke, his voice was completely different from before. The arrogance was gone. The dismissiveness had vanished. He sounded almost shaken. "Where?" he started, then cleared his throat. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Lily turned her face toward his voice, though her eyes looked past him at nothing. "My teacher, Mrs. Patterson, she's been working with me since I was 6. But the piece, the interpretation, He struggled to find words. The feeling. "You can't teach that. That's something that takes years to develop, decades even." "I've been playing since I was 4, Lily said quietly. I could see back then. A murmur went through the watching students. Mr. Anderson pulled up a chair and sat down like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. "You weren't always blind?" Lily shook her head. "I got really sick when I was 6. Meningitis. The doctors said I was lucky to survive. But the fever damaged my optic nerves. By the time I recovered, I couldn't see anything anymore." Her mother squeezed her shoulder, remembering those dark months in the hospital. The fear. The grief of watching her daughter lose her sight. The doctors who said Lily would need to give up piano, that it would be too difficult for a blind child to continue. "Everyone told me I had to stop playing," Lily continued. "They said I'd never be able to read music anymore. Never be able to learn new pieces. My parents tried to prepare me for it, tried to help me accept it." She paused, a small smile crossing her face. "But I couldn't. Piano was the only thing that made sense after I lost my sight. It was the one place where I could still feel normal. Mr. Anderson leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. How do you learn new pieces? How do you practice? Mrs. Patterson plays it for me first. I listen and I memorize it. We go through it section by section. She helps me understand the structure, the patterns, the emotional arc. Then I practice until my fingers know every note without thinking. Lily's hands moved slightly in her lap, as if remembering. What I can't see on a page I can hear in the music. Sometimes I think I hear things that people who read sheet music might miss. One of the watching students spoke up. What do you mean? Lily thought for a moment. When you read music, you see notes and symbols. But I hear spaces. I hear how one note connects to the next, how a chord vibrates and fades, the way silence can be just as powerful as sound. I listen to how the music breathes. The hall was completely quiet now. Every person there was hanging on her words. Mr. Anderson sat back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. He looked around at all the talented students watching, then back at Lily. For the first time in a very long time, he felt small. He had judged this girl before hearing a single note, had dismissed her potential because of her disability, and she had just shown all of them what real music was supposed to sound like. I owe you an apology, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I was wrong. Completely, entirely wrong. Lily didn't know what to say. She had prepared herself for rejection, for being sent home. She had not prepared herself for an apology, especially not from someone like Mr. Anderson, who seemed so confident and sure of himself just minutes ago. You don't have to apologize, she said softly, though her hands were shaking slightly in her lap. Yes, I do, Mr. Anderson insisted. He stood up and turned to face all the students who had gathered around. In fact, I owe all of you an apology too. I've been teaching you the wrong things. The students exchanged confused glances. One brave girl spoke up. What do you mean? You're one of the best piano teachers in the country. Mr. Anderson let out a bitter laugh. I've been teaching you to be technically perfect, to hit every note correctly, to follow the sheet music exactly as it's written. But I've forgotten to teach you the most important thing. He gestured toward Lily. To feel the music, to live inside it, to let it speak through you. He walked back to Lily and knelt down beside the piano bench so he was at her eye level, even though she couldn't see him. Would you stay? Not just for today, but for the whole workshop? I think everyone here, including me, needs to learn from you. Lily's mother stepped forward, protective. Mr. Anderson, I appreciate the kind words, but you made it very clear that this workshop wasn't for my daughter. I was an idiot, he said bluntly, and I'm asking for a chance to make it right. He looked up at her. Please, let Lily stay. Let her show these students what I've failed to teach them. Lily turned her face toward her mother, waiting. She could hear the hesitation in the silence. Her mother had every right to be angry, to take her daughter and leave this place that had tried to reject her. But Lily also knew her mother, knew she would let Lily make this choice. Sweetie, her mother said quietly, what do you want to do? Lily thought about it, about the 3-hour bus ride home, about going back to her small town where people meant well, but still treated her like she was fragile, like she might break. Here, just moments ago, she had played for people who actually understood music, who could appreciate what she was doing. That didn't happen very often. I want to stay, she said. Her mother squeezed her shoulder. Then we'll stay. Mr. Anderson let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Thank you. Both of you. He stood up and clapped his hands together, suddenly energized. All right, everyone, back to your pianos. We're restructuring today's schedule. The students scattered back to their instruments, buzzing with excitement and whispers. Lily heard them talking about her, but this time it wasn't mocking. It was wonder, respect. Over the next hour, Mr. Anderson completely changed his teaching approach. Instead of drilling the students on technical exercises, he asked them to close their eyes, to play pieces they knew well without looking at their hands or sheet music, to focus only on what they were hearing. It was harder than any of them expected. A boy at piano 9 kept peeking through his eyelids, losing his place completely when he closed them again. A girl at piano 2 hit wrong notes repeatedly, panicking without the visual guide of the keys. They had all become so dependent on their eyes that taking away sight felt like taking away their ability to play at all. Lily sat at piano 7, listening to the chaos around her. She could hear the frustration building. Students sighing, making mistakes, starting over again and again. Mr. Anderson noticed it too. He walked to the center of the hall and called for attention. I know this is difficult, but I want you to understand something. Lily doesn't have the option of opening her eyes. She's been playing like this for 8 years, and you all heard what she can do. He turned toward where Lily was sitting. Lily, would you mind sharing some advice? How do you do it? How do you play without seeing? All eyes turned to her. Lily felt her face grow warm. She wasn't used to being the center of attention like this. Wasn't used to people actually wanting to hear what she had to say about piano. She started, her voice uncertain. Well, first you have to trust your fingers. They know more than you think they do. You've all been playing for years. Your hands already know where the keys are. You just have to believe in them. But what about learning new pieces? Someone called out. How do you know if you're playing the right notes? I make lots of mistakes, Lily admitted with a small laugh. Probably more than you guys do. But my teacher, Mrs. Patterson, she's really patient. She plays a section for me. Sometimes just a few measures at a time. I listen to it over and over until I can hear it perfectly in my head. Then I try to copy it. If I get it wrong, she plays it again. We work slowly, but eventually it sticks. A younger student, maybe 12 years old, raised his hand shyly. Does it take longer to learn a piece when you can't see it? Lily nodded. Usually, yeah. What might take you a week might take me 2 or 3 weeks. But I think going slowly helps me understand the piece better. I have to really know it inside and out before I can play it. I can't just glance at the sheet music if I forget something. Mr. Anderson was listening intently, and Lily could hear him pacing slowly as she talked. That's fascinating. So you're forced to internalize every piece completely. There's no shortcut, no way to fake it. Exactly, Lily said. And I think that's why I hear things differently. When you read music, you see it all at once, the whole page. But I experience it moment by moment, note by note. Each sound is its own little world before it connects to the next one. The students were quiet now, really absorbing what she was saying. One of the older girls spoke up, her voice thoughtful. I think I've been playing on autopilot. Just reading and playing, reading and playing. I don't think I've really listened to what I'm doing in years. Me too, another student admitted. It's like my eyes do all the work and my ears are just along for the ride. Mr. Anderson smiled, a real, genuine smile. That's exactly the problem I've been creating. I've been teaching you to be sight readers, not musicians. He walked over to Lily again. Would you be willing to do something for me? For all of us. What is it? Lily asked, a little nervous. Would you teach a session? Show everyone your process. Let them see how you learn and practice. I think it would be incredibly valuable. Lily's heart jumped. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a student like everyone else. You're more than that, Mr. Anderson said gently. You've figured out something that takes most pianists a lifetime to understand. That music isn't about reading notes. It's about feeling them, living them. Lily's mother spoke up from where she was sitting near the wall. You don't have to if you don't want to, honey. This is supposed to be your workshop experience, not you teaching others. But Lily was thinking about all the times people had helped her. Mrs. Patterson spending extra hours with her, her parents driving her to lessons even when money was tight. The kind librarian who ordered audiobooks about music theory just for her. Maybe this was her chance to give something back. Okay, she said quietly. I'll try. The afternoon session was unlike anything the workshop had ever seen. Lily sat at the piano and asked Mr. Anderson to play a piece she had never heard before. He chose a short Debussy prelude, something gentle but with interesting harmonies. He played it through twice while Lily listened, her head tilted slightly, her face completely focused. The other students watched in silence, amazed at her concentration. They could see her fingers twitching slightly in her lap, already starting to map out the notes. Okay, she said when he finished. Let me try the first line. What happened next was remarkable. Lily played the opening phrase, got most of it right, but missed a few notes. Instead of getting frustrated, she smiled. There's a chord there I didn't catch. Can you play just that measure again? Mr. Anderson played it, and Lily listened even more carefully. Oh, I hear it now. There's a dissonance there, right? 2 notes that kind of clash? Yes, exactly. Lily tried again, and this time she got it. The students watching realized they were seeing her actual learning process. The trial and error. The careful listening. The patience. It made her earlier performance even more impressive, knowing how much work went into every piece she played. For the next 2 hours, Lily taught the students her techniques. How to break a piece into tiny sections. How to listen for patterns and repetitions. How to use your other senses when sight wasn't available. How to trust your muscle memory and your ears. One by one, the students started to get it. They kept their eyes closed longer, made fewer mistakes, started to really hear what they were playing instead of just executing notes on a page. By the end of the day, the entire energy of the workshop had shifted. Students who had been competitive and isolated were now helping each other, sharing insights. The hall felt less like a pressure cooker and more like a community. As everyone packed up for the day, Mr. Anderson pulled Lily aside. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice serious. "What you did today changed how I think about teaching. About music. About everything, really." Lily didn't know what to say to that. "I've been so focused on producing technically perfect pianists that I forgot why any of us started playing in the first place," he continued. "You reminded me. You reminded all of us," he paused. "I want to help you, Lily. I have connections. To music schools, to other teachers, to opportunities. If you're interested, I'd like to mentor you." Lily felt her breath catch. "Really? Really? You have a gift. Not despite your blindness, but maybe even because of it. You found a way to connect with music that most of us spend our whole lives searching for." His voice grew emotional. "Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do this. Promise me." "I promise," Lily whispered. Behind them, her mother was crying again, but this time they were tears of joy. 3 years passed faster than Lily could have imagined. The shy 14-year-old girl who had walked into that workshop with trembling hands was now 17, and her life had transformed in ways she never dreamed possible. True to his word, Mr. Anderson had made some calls. Within 2 months of that summer workshop, Lily received a letter that made her mother cry for an entire afternoon. The National Conservatory of Music, one of the most prestigious music schools in the country, was offering her a full scholarship. They had never accepted a blind student before. Lily would be making history just by walking through their doors. The first year at the conservatory had been brutal. The other students were incredibly talented, many of them coming from wealthy families who could afford private lessons since they were toddlers. Lily often felt like she was drowning, trying to keep up with the demanding schedule while learning everything in a completely different way than her classmates. There were professors who didn't understand her methods, who got frustrated when she couldn't sight read during rehearsals, who questioned whether she really belonged there. More than once, Lily had called her mother late at night crying, saying she wanted to come home. But Mr. Anderson was always there. He had taken a position as a visiting instructor at the conservatory, specifically to work with Lily. He defended her to skeptical faculty members, helped her find alternative ways to study music theory, spent countless extra hours making sure she had recordings of every piece she needed to learn. More importantly, he had changed as a teacher. The arrogant, dismissive man from that first day was gone. In his place was someone humble, someone who listened, someone who understood that there were many paths to musical excellence. Lily had taught him that, and he never forgot it. Now in her 3rd year, Lily had not only survived but thrived. She had performed in several student concerts, won a regional competition, even started teaching younger students her techniques for playing without sight. The conservatory had become her home and the piano her voice, but Mr. Anderson had bigger plans. One afternoon in early spring, he asked Lily to meet him in his office. She navigated the familiar hallways with ease now, her cane tapping a rhythm she knew by heart. When she entered, she could tell something was different. There was an energy in the room, an excitement in his voice. "Sit down, Lily. I have something to discuss with you." She found the chair across from his desk and sat, curious. "Is everything okay?" "More than okay." She heard papers rustling. "I've been talking with some colleagues, important colleagues, and we all agree that you're ready for the next step." "Next step?" Lily's heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" "The international piano competition in Moscow. It's being held in 4 months." Lily felt the air leave her lungs. The international piano competition was legendary. It was where careers were made, where unknown pianists became overnight sensations. Winners went on to perform with the greatest orchestras in the world. "Mr. Anderson, I can't. That's for professionals. For people who have been playing their whole lives." "You have been playing your whole life," he reminded her gently, "and you're better than most of the professionals I know. But I'm only 17, and I'm still a student. And I'm blind," he finished for her. "Yes, you are. and that's going to make your entry into this competition historic. You would be the first blind contestant in the competition's 70-year history. The weight of those words settled over Lily like a heavy blanket. Historic. First, all her life she had just wanted to be treated normally, to be judged by her ability and not her disability. But she was starting to understand that her blindness wasn't separate from her music. It was part of her journey, part of what made her unique. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Good," Mr. Anderson said. "That means you understand how important this is. But I believe in you, Lily. More than that, I know you can do this. The question is, do you believe it?" Lily sat in silence for a long moment. She thought about that 14-year-old girl being laughed at in the concert hall. Thought about all the people who had told her she couldn't, she shouldn't, she'd never be able to. Thought about her mother's sacrifices, Mrs. Patterson's patience, Mr. Anderson's transformation. "What piece would I play?" she asked quietly. She heard Mr. Anderson smile. "That's my girl." For the final round, contestants perform a concerto with orchestra. "I was thinking Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3. Lily's eyes widened. "That's one of the hardest pieces in the entire piano repertoire. Some of the greatest pianists in the world struggle with it." "I know, but you're not some pianist. You're Lily Chen. And if you're going to make history, you might as well do it with the most challenging piece possible." The next 4 months were the most intense of Lily's life. She practiced 8, sometimes 10 hours a day. Her fingers developed calluses on top of calluses. She dreamed in chord progressions and woke up with melodies running through her head. The Rachmaninoff was a monster of a piece. It demanded technical perfection, physical endurance, and deep emotional understanding. There were passages so fast and complex that even seeing pianists struggled to keep up. For Lily, memorizing every single note of the 30-minute concerto felt like trying to memorize an entire novel word by word. But she had her methods. She broke it down into tiny sections, spent days on passages that were only seconds long, listened to dozens of different recordings, learning how various pianists interpreted the same phrases. Worked with Mr. Anderson to understand the structure, the story the music was telling. There were days she wanted to quit. Days when her hands cramped so badly she couldn't play. Days when she made the same mistake over and over until she wanted to scream. Her mother would find her crying at the piano late at night, frustrated and exhausted. "Maybe this is too much," her mother said one particularly hard evening. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone." "I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone else," Lily said, wiping her tears. "I'm trying to prove it to myself, that I can do this, that I belong on that stage." As the competition date grew closer, word started spreading. The media picked up on the story. A blind teenager competing at the International Piano Competition. Human interest pieces appeared in newspapers. Local news stations asked for interviews. Suddenly, Lily wasn't just a student anymore. She was a symbol, an inspiration, a story. The attention made her uncomfortable. She didn't want to be an inspiration. She just wanted to play piano. But Mr. Anderson helped her understand that, like it or not, she was representing something bigger than herself. Blind musicians everywhere were watching. Kids with disabilities who thought they couldn't pursue their dreams were looking to her. "You're showing them what's possible," he told her. "That's a gift, Lily, even if it feels like a burden sometimes." The day finally came to leave for Moscow. Lily's mother had used her savings to buy plane tickets for both of them. Mrs. Patterson, her first teacher, came to the airport to see them off. She hugged Lily tightly and whispered, "I always knew you were special. Go show the world what I've known all along." The flight was long. Lily couldn't sleep. She kept running through the piece in her mind, her fingers twitching as if playing invisible keys. Her mother held her hand during the worst of the anxiety, not saying anything, just being there. When they arrived in Moscow, the competition venue took Lily's breath away. The grand hall was enormous, with acoustics so perfect you could hear a pin drop from the back row. During the practice session, Lily played a few scales on the competition piano and nearly cried. The instrument was magnificent, responding to the slightest touch. Over the next 3 days, she watched the other competitors. Well, listened to them. There were pianists from 15 different countries. Many of them had been performing professionally for years. Their playing was flawless, powerful, technically brilliant. Lily felt small, insignificant. What was she doing here, competing against these giants? The night before her performance, she couldn't eat dinner, couldn't focus on anything. Mr. Anderson, who had flown in separately, came to her hotel room. He found her sitting on the bed, her hands shaking. "I can't do this," she said. "I'm going to embarrass myself." "Embarrass you? Embarrass everyone who believed in me." Mr. Anderson sat down beside her. "Do you remember that day at the workshop? When I laughed at you?" "Of course. Do you remember what you did?" "I played anyway. You did more than that. You played something so beautiful it changed my entire life, changed my whole understanding of what music could be." He put a hand on her shoulder. "That girl is still inside you. The one who refused to be dismissed, who refused to let anyone tell her what she couldn't do. Find her again. Play for her." Lily took a deep breath. He was right. She had come too far to doubt herself now. Tomorrow she would walk onto that stage, and she would show them all exactly what a blind girl could do. The scared part of her wanted to run. But the brave part, the part that had been growing stronger with every note she'd ever played, told her to stay. She chose bravery. The morning of the final round arrived with gray skies and cold wind. Lily barely slept. She had spent most of the night lying awake, running through every measure of the Rachmaninoff in her mind. Now, sitting in the backstage area of the grand hall, she could hear the massive audience filing in. The rustle of programs, hushed conversations in multiple languages. The anticipation was so thick she could almost taste it. Her mother sat beside her, squeezing her hand. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" "Like I might throw up," Lily admitted with a nervous laugh. "That's normal. You know what your father said before we left? He said you've already won just by being here. No matter what happens today, we're so proud of you." Lily nodded, but she knew she wanted more than just to participate. She wanted to prove that she belonged here, that her blindness wasn't a limitation but simply a different way of seeing the world and the music in it. Mr. Anderson appeared in the doorway. "Lily, they're ready for you. You're the last performer of the competition." Being last was both a blessing and a curse. It meant the judges had heard everyone else already, which could work for or against her. It also meant the waiting was finally over. She stood up, her legs feeling shaky. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Remember, just play for yourself. Play because you love it. Everything else will follow." Mr. Anderson guided her through the backstage corridors. She could hear the orchestra warming up on stage, the murmur of 3,000 people in the audience. Somewhere in that crowd were journalists from major newspapers, talent scouts from the world's greatest concert halls, and millions more who would eventually see video footage of this performance. "Are you nervous?" Mr. Anderson asked as they waited in the wings. "Terrified," Lily whispered. "Good. Channel that into the music. Some of the greatest performances in history came from terrified people who played anyway." He paused. "I need to tell you something before you go out there." "What?" "Thank you for teaching me what I should have known all along. That music isn't about perfection. It's about truth. You taught me that 3 years ago, and I've never forgotten it." Before Lily could respond, she heard the announcer's voice boom across the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, our final performer of the competition, playing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3 from the United States of America, please welcome Lily Chen." The applause was thunderous. Lily gripped her cane and walked onto the stage, counting her steps carefully. She had practiced this walk dozens of times during rehearsal. 17 steps to the piano bench. She could feel the heat of the stage lights on her face even though she couldn't see them. When she reached the piano, she carefully folded her cane and set it beside the bench. The audience grew quiet. In that silence, she heard someone cough. A child whisper. The creak of wooden seats. Then nothing. 3,000 people holding their breath. She placed her hands on the keys, feeling their familiar smoothness beneath her fingers. This was it. Everything she had worked for. Every hour of practice, every moment of doubt, every person who had believed in her and every person who hadn't. It all came down to the next 30 minutes. The conductor raised his baton. Lily took one deep breath and nodded. The orchestra began with those famous opening chords, powerful and dramatic. Then it was her turn. Her fingers came down on the keys and the first notes poured out. Strong, confident, clear. The opening theme of the Rachmaninoff unfolded like a story, and Lily was the narrator. All the nervousness melted away. This was where she belonged. Not in the audience, not backstage, but here at the piano, speaking the only language that had never failed her. Her hands flew across the keys, executing passages that would make even experienced pianists sweat. But Lily wasn't thinking about technique anymore. She was inside the music, living it, breathing it. The first movement was a marathon of virtuosity. Her fingers ran through rapid scales and thundering chords. The orchestra swelled behind her and she responded, matching their power, dancing with them in perfect synchronization. She could feel the vibrations of the timpani through the stage floor, could hear the soaring violins above her own playing. In the audience, people were leaning forward in their seats. Judges were scribbling notes frantically. Cameras were capturing every moment. But Lily was aware of none of this. She was somewhere else entirely, in a world made purely of sound and feeling. The second movement arrived, softer and more introspective. This was the heart of the piece, the emotional center. Lily's playing became tender, almost fragile. Each note was placed with such care that you could hear the spaces between them. The orchestra provided a gentle cushion beneath her melody, and together they created something heartbreakingly beautiful. Her mother, sitting in the audience, had tears streaming down her face. She watched her daughter on that enormous stage and remembered the little 6-year-old girl crying in a hospital bed, asking why she couldn't see anymore. Remembered holding her while she sobbed, thinking she'd never play piano again. And now here she was performing one of the most difficult pieces ever written, in front of the entire world. Mr. Anderson stood in the wings, his arms crossed, but his eyes were wet too. He thought about the arrogant teacher he used to be, how close he had come to dismissing this extraordinary girl, how she had changed not just his teaching but his entire approach to life. She had humbled him and in doing so had made him better. The third movement exploded with energy. This was where the piece demanded everything from the pianist. Speed, power, endurance, emotion. Lily's hands were a blur across the keys. Sweat formed on her forehead. Her whole body moved with the music, swaying and rocking with the intensity. There was a technically difficult passage coming up, one that had given her nightmares during practice. A cascade of notes that had to be played at lightning speed with perfect clarity. She had stumbled through it 100 times in rehearsal. But now, on this stage, in this moment, her fingers found their way without hesitation. Every note rang out clear and true. The orchestra built to a massive crescendo, and Lily matched them, her playing becoming more powerful with each measure. The final minutes of the piece were a whirlwind of sound, of passion, of everything she had inside her pouring out through her fingertips. And then suddenly, it was over. The final chords rang out, powerful and definitive. Lily's hands came off the keys and dropped to her lap. She sat very still, her chest heaving, completely exhausted. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Complete and total silence. Then the hall erupted. 3,000 people rose to their feet as one, applauding, cheering, some of them crying. The sound was deafening, overwhelming. It went on, wave after wave of appreciation. Lily stood up shakily and turned toward where she thought the audience was. She bowed, her face flushed, still trying to catch her breath. The applause grew even louder. People were shouting "Brava" in multiple languages. The orchestra members were tapping their bows on their music stands, their way of showing approval. Mr. Anderson ran onto the stage and hugged her tightly. "You did it," he whispered in her ear. "You absolutely did it." The results were announced 2 hours later. Lily didn't win first place. That went to a brilliant pianist from Germany who had performed flawlessly. Lily came in second, but in many ways she had already won something far more valuable than a trophy. Within days, video of her performance went viral. Millions of people around the world watched the blind teenager playing Rachmaninoff with such power and emotion. News outlets called her an inspiration. Music schools began reaching out, wanting to study her methods. Other blind musicians contacted her, thanking her for showing them what was possible. But the real impact came in the emails and letters. From parents of blind children who said their kids had started taking music lessons after seeing Lily play. From people with disabilities who said she had given them courage to pursue their own dreams. From music teachers who said she had reminded them why they fell in love with music in the first place. Mr. Anderson started a foundation within a year, dedicated to providing instruments and training to young musicians with disabilities. He named it the Lily Chen Foundation, though she protested the honor. The foundation helped hundreds of kids who might never have had the chance to discover their musical gifts. As for Lily, she went on to have a career as both a performer and a teacher. She gave concerts around the world, always including pieces she had learned through her unique methods. but she found her greatest joy in teaching young blind students, showing them the techniques that had worked for her, helping them find their own voice in music. Years later, when asked about that day in Moscow, Lily always said the same thing. "I didn't make history because I was blind. I made history because I refused to let being blind stop me from doing what I loved." There's a difference. One is about disability, the other is about determination, and whenever she told her story, she always mentioned Mr. Anderson, the man who had laughed at her, then learned from her, then dedicated his life to helping others like her. Because their story wasn't just about overcoming prejudice. It was about how people can change, can grow, can become better versions of themselves when they open their hearts and minds to learning from unexpected teachers. That 14-year-old girl who walked into a concert hall with trembling hands had not just played beautiful music. She had taught the world to see with their ears, to listen with their hearts, and to never underestimate what's possible when someone refuses to accept the limitations others try to place on them. She had made history not with her eyes, but with her soul.